The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly podcast coming to you on November 23rd, actually, 2021. How you guys doing? This is going to be the second annual Fake Questions, Real Answers. We did this podcast back in July, actually. Initially, I was going to do this monthly. Then, of course, a month passed, 2 months passed, and now we're November. We're at the end of November now. We're actually literally the day or 2 days before Thanksgiving. This is actually go out day for Thanksgiving, and I decided to actually make this a seasonal thing. In other words, I wanted to make this, do this maybe 4 times a year. Maybe we'll change that as the time goes on. But I figured decided to just do a fall edition of this. Basically, Fake Questions, Real Answers is basically taking trending topics on the internet, on social media, some personal, some not so personal, and just creating content on that. The first episode was really cool. I actually enjoyed it. So if we could do it again. So I have 15 fake questions, and I'll give you some 15 real answers. And, we should have a good time with this. We have a diverse amount of questions here, from politics to sports to wrestling to personal to, like, the holidays, pop culture, you name it. So let's get started, shall we? First question here. Any more thoughts on Scottie Pippen and his newly released book? Now, the first edition of this Fake Question Real Answers, we actually did touch on Scottie Pippen, and at the time, the excerpt from this book that started coming out at the time, and we were just, reacting to what we had heard about his discontentment with the Bulls and Michael Jordan and the whole Last Dance thing, and obviously we've heard more things now since the book's really released. I think a couple days ago, it was a week ago maybe it was. And, as I've always said for a long time, Scottie Pippen is he's an enigma in a lot of ways. I've always said that Pippen has been always consistently inconsistent. I wrote a blog about that a couple years ago, actually. And look, Pippen is a top 50 player of all time. We're not going to ding him for his work. He's done with the Bulls and other teams and whatnot. He's a 6-time champion. They don't win with. I firmly believe that the Bulls don't win those titles without him, because I think his defense was important to that franchise, to that team. It helped Michael Jordan, So we can go both ways here. I don't know if what he's saying is true. Okay, in his book, what we said about Michael Jordan and everything else, the things about Phil Jackson we said in this book, is that true or not? I don't know. We can't confirm that. We weren't there with him. I do know that he's promoting a book, and I said in the last time we did this. He's promoting a book. When you promote a book, you're in sell mode. You have to embellish a little bit sometimes. The vibe I get with Pippen is that he's probably embellishing a lot of the things that he went through. Some things could be true, but at the same time, he might be stretching the truth a little bit now. And again, you're trying to sell a book. You're trying to sell a book, so you got to make things interesting. No one's going to buy your book if you don't have any salacious stuff in there, whether it's true or not. So my vibe on this is that Pippen is really just trying to get to a point just to sell his book. He's just trying to sell his book. He's trying to be that, he's in sell mode. Then he said there's some comments about him, talking about how Tom Brady's not the greatest football player of all time. Though what he said, his explanation of that actually was actually pretty poignant, though, because technically, while we agree that Brady is the greatest quarterback in the history of football, football's different. It's 3 phases of the game: is offense, defense, special teams. And Tom Brady does not play special teams. He does not return punts. So his explanation about him not being the greatest football player of all time is because of the fact that he does not do other things, or he's not an athlete. He kind of has a point there, So, but again, it's also Pippen saying things for shock value too. He knows that saying that is going to be shocking to people. He knows that'll be clickbait for people. And we're in this world, 2021, where you just say one little shocking thing and the headline gets more than the context. So, I hope for his sake he's doing well. I will say that for a long time, Pippen's gone through a lot. I think he had a son that passed away recently. He's going through a public divorce. So there's a lot of hurt there. He definitely does a lot of hurt there. on his end. Let's hope that he's find some peace at some point. Like I said, a lot of things he said, I think, are a little bit embellished. I mean, like I said, there could be some truth to some things he's saying there too. A lot of the Jordan defenders also very much, and I'm not saying that you should defend Michael Jordan, this and that, but let's not pretend Michael Jordan was some perfect human being. He was not. He was not. So, all right, next question here. Any final thoughts on the Kyle Rittenhouse trial? So, as I said on one of the podcasts last week, prior to the verdict coming in, I steered clear of the trial. I sort of followed some things toward the end, right around deliberation, but this little things that were leaked out to the media and all that, and I steered clear of it because I realized both sides of the aisle, political aisle, and that's the first problem here. A trial was politicized on both sides. Whether or not you agree or disagree with the verdict here, the trial was politicized. And because of that, it was hard to trust the information you were getting from either side as well, too. So I steered clear of it, honestly, because I didn't want to get into the minutia, because it was going to happen. What was going to happen was going to happen. So I think the verdict. I don't have an opinion on the verdict. My biggest issue is, and I knew this was going to happen once they pulled back this charge. The fact that he was a minor with a gun, and he was charged with that, and then they pulled that charge back. To me, that was bothersome in itself. Okay, if you can't get him on the self-defense thing, where he's pleading self-defense when he killed those two guys, I mean, what we're doing here. That, to me, the fact he couldn't even charge him on the minor holding a gun, at 17 years old, which he was 17 years old, that's not a lie. That was problematic in itself. And of course, like I said, it's all been political, and, I saw people on both sides, and the people who were cheering for him are very happy, and, making it about, this and that, and, these two guys were, they were criminals anyway, so fuck them and all this stuff. And then, of course, you have the other side that thinks that, that he's not getting interfered. People like him is getting, because of privilege. And, of course, people were, and there are examples of this, by the way. There's a 17-year-old woman who murdered a guy that trafficked her, and now she's facing first degree murder charges. Same county, Kenosha, and yet she's not given the, the same reprieve. So there's a lot of that out there too. But the trial itself, man, I stay away from it, honestly. I just didn't want to get. I told you guys back in January when Joe Biden was inaugurated as president, I decided to step away from politics a little bit. I've started to get back to it a little bit recently in the last month or so, just because. But yeah, the world has not changed. Just because we changed presidents, I mean the world has changed. It's still as polarizing as it's been the last 5, 6, 7, even 10 years. So anyway, next question here. Your thoughts on Andre Godalla saying that Kyrie Irving is a top 5 point guard all time? I don't agree with him, just for the record. I think Kyrie Irving is one of the best talents of all time. But if you're talking about putting the work in and being that guy, no. I mean, he said he said his three is the top three. Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson and Steph Curry, definitely the three are there. But after that, Kyrie should be in that conversation. No. Kyrie Irving has destroyed teams. Kyrie Irving has destroyed teams he's been on. The Celtics, the Cavaliers, he can make work with LeBron after a couple of years. The whole thing with Brooklyn now, we don't know what's going to happen with that. Him be out with COVID. Part of being a great all-time, player beyond the talent has to be being available, and also being someone that does not disband their team, make their team worse. And all we needed to know was what he did in Boston. Boston was a team that was set to be an NBA Finals contender, NBA champion. And that team, he destroyed from within. Kyrie Irving is a fantastic talent all time. No one's debating that. Kyrie Irving is one of the most talented players I've ever seen, pound for pound, play basketball. But when it comes to being a leader, being a guy you can depend on, he's always hurt. No. He's not. I would take Jason Kidd over him. I would take Gary Payton over him. I'll take Steve Nash over him. I'll take Chris Paul over him. That's 6, 7 guys that I mentioned there. After you get past the top 3. So no, Iguodala's wrong, in my opinion. He's not a top 5 point guard all time. He's definitely a top 5 talent all time. But point guard, no. Because to me, it's more than just being great with the basketball. It's also being available, being healthy, and not being a problem for your ball club. And he's that, unfortunately. All right, here's a wrestling question here. Seeing this month is the 25th anniversary of The Rock's debut in the WWE Survivor Series, what is your favorite moments, matches, or feud of his? Yeah, I'm a big Rock fan, obviously. I've been a fan from the beginning before he was actually this big star. I mean, before he was a big star in WWE. Best matches, I mean, his stuff with Austin is amazing. I thought his feud with Triple H is fantastic. His feud with Mick Foley was awesome. Obviously, the whole thing with the Royal Rumble was actually queasy to watch, but at the time was really amazing. But looking at now the chair shots and stuff, not a good look to watch now. But those feuds are fantastic. Individual matches, honestly, I mean, I don't look at match. He's never really been the guy that's been a terrific wrestler, but he's great. He's just great what he does. He knows how to psychologically make a match better than it really is. So there really isn't a match that stand out to me personally, other than the feuds. The build up to the feuds to the matches was what made him great. In terms of like his promos, I mean, obviously, him and the Rockstar connection, His Is Your Life thing with Mick Foley was fantastic. I love my favorite era of The Rock is really, honestly, 1998, 1999, when he was heel, turning face for a couple months, and then turned heel again when he joined the corporation with Vince McMahon. And that whole run for that year, going to the Austin match at WrestleMania 15, into, turning face again that spring, that was my favorite era of The Rock. I mean, he was a bad guy, but was so over, you couldn't keep him as a heel, ended up being the biggest face in the company next to Austin. Austin goes away for a year because of his neck issues, and he's the number one guy. But The Rock, I mean, he's on the Mount Rushmore of WWE superstars. I wouldn't put him as WWE Mount Rushmore of all time wrestlers, but in terms of WWE superstars, absolutely. I mean, the guy was one of the best selling in merch and all that. He still today has the pulse, like Austin has a pulse. Same with him. So The Rock, I mean, he's one of the greats, honestly. All right, next question here: are you comfortable with Britney Spears spilling the beans with Oprah Winfrey if and when she decides to do so? So Britney Spears, obviously, her conservatorship has now come to end. She mentioned on her Instagram about, I think, last week that she was planning on talking to Oprah at some point. You guys know I don't like Oprah Winfrey. I've never liked her. Never liked her. Now Oprah Winfrey is a fantastic talent, one of the best. She's great what she does in terms of interviews and stuff. But at the same time, I've never liked Oprah Winfrey. I always found her to be too much of an elitist. She's someone who's very preachy, preaching about how to be a parent when she's not even a parent herself, preaching about marital stuff when she's never been married. I don't like the way she handled the Michael Jackson thing with the accusers 2 years ago on her show, and then quietly pulls back when it comes out that when these guys have been lying. The way she handles stuff with her and Gayle King, and how they handled the Kobe Bryant stuff when he passed away. I've always been to me, Oprah has always been someone who's been very toxic to, especially men and black men in general. That's just my opinion. You may not agree with this opinion, that's fine. Is she a great talent? Absolutely. But I've never liked Oprah Winfrey. I've always found her to be very snakish and all that. Britney, if she wants to go on Oprah, she's fine. She can do it. It will get a lot of ratings, obviously, because these two names. I would just be very careful, obviously, if I'm Britney Spears, because I don't trust Oprah Winfrey. And that's how I feel. You don't like it, but that's how I feel, personally. So, but I'm just glad Britney Spears got her life back. She seems very happy. I'm very happy for her, and hope she does what she wants to do. I'm hoping she's at peace. So, all right. Next one here, another wrestling question here. Which male and female WWE superstars do you believe should be pushed next into the title picture? So if you look at the WWE picture right now, obviously the Universal Champion is Roman Reigns, the WWE Champion is Big E. I honestly don't know who's next in line. The only person, to me, we're still right now in retread mode. The only people I can think of that can really challenge Roman Reigns, and I said this before in the podcast last year, and I think it's going to work out. It may work out to be this way because of where he is currently on the SmackDown brand, is Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, obviously he won the belt last year, but then won it during COVID. So you really get a chance to see him, as a champion with crowds. And by the time he got crowds back, he really dropped the belt. And we thought maybe there was some fatigue there, but I've been watching McIntyre the last month or two, and he's still getting a lot of cheers. He's still pretty over with the crowd. So I think Drew McIntyre will be the one guy on SmackDown I can see, that could benefit from being the next guy getting over with Roman Reigns. On the Raw side, however, that's a little more complicated. Again, more retreads. Finn Balor, do you go AJ Styles again, Bobby Lashley again? I don't know. Because the guy that was next in line really he has the belt now is Big E. That was the guy I would have said, but he won the belt 2 months ago. So that would be the guy. Female wise, obviously got Bianca in the picture. Bianca and Becky, taking a break from their little feud, but obviously, they're pushing Liv Morgan on the Raw side. Obviously, let me see on the SmackDown side. I like to see Shayna Baszler to be taken more seriously on the SmackDown side. Like you have Charlotte, obviously, as a champion. You have Sasha there. I also think Shotzi Blackheart is also someone you can look at, but I think Shayna Baszler is definitely someone not great in the ring. Maybe boring to some, but I think at the same time, because of what she can, the presence she has, you can still sell her as a champion because, look at her NXT. She was great in NXT. So I can see her, but they've misused her too a lot. So I'm not sure I'm not entirely sure if she's damaged goods at this point. I don't know. But I would say Shayna Baszler on the SmackDown side, and on the Raw side, I would say, what did I say? I said Bianca, but Bianca has been a champion. Liv Morgan is probably another one, but yeah. Anyway, next question here. Oh, I like this one here. Are you okay with people decorating their homes for Christmas in November? Honestly, yeah, I am. Especially now in the COVID era. I used to not like this before. I used to be a little more ball humbug before I had kids. I loved Christmas as a child when I growing up in New York and then moved to Florida. And then as I got older, obviously, you do your own thing during holidays and you don't have kids and you're not married. You can, whatever. The holidays were just another day for me. Then I became a husband and then had kids. And that's changed. And now I kind of vicariously, enjoy that stuff through them. So, and now with COVID now and people just going through a lot, I don't mind people if this brings you joy, go right ahead and do it. I'm okay with it. In fact, I actually endorse it. Like my wife and I were playing Christmas music in the car, like November 1st. I'm okay with it. I'm playing music with in the car with the kids now. I'm okay with it because it takes you back to a happier time. Like this world we live in right now, politically speaking, and everything's polarized. Everybody has a problem with something. Everybody's mad. Everybody's always pissed off. And in some cases, rightfully so. But there's so much negative shit out there now at this point that I'm okay. You know what? If this brings joy and happiness to people in their lives, why the fuck not, dude? Honestly, why not? Why not? So go right ahead. If you want to decorate your house, put your tree up and all that. Like we were trying to get a tree, a couple weeks ago, but there were no trees in my neighborhood yet. But dude, it makes you happy. Go right ahead and do it, man. I have no problem with that. I have no bones with that whatsoever. So if it makes you happy, it makes you happy. I'm cool with that. So yeah. All right, next question. Oh, politics here. Forecast the 2022 midterms. How bad does it look for Democrats and Joe Biden? If you believe in optics, it looks horrible. To me, I'm looking at this, I'm looking at it as 1994, when Bill Clinton's first term, he took office in 1993. They got no movement, nothing in the first year and a half, 2 years of his presidency, and Republicans took back everything, the House and the Senate. It was pretty bad for Democrats. Now, Bill Clinton, to his credit, did get a second term out of it, and he had to work with Republicans, which he did. It was definitely a scandalous-filled administration, though. As far as this 2022, Democrats are bad at optics. They're bad at the culture war thing. Republicans right now, conservatives are crushing them when it comes to culture war. Where they're losing right now is on the vaccine thing. Some of the things they're doing, not very popular. Even people who are liberals and who are not heavy into the mandates and stuff. Like myself, I'm not liberal, but I don't believe in a vaccine mandate. I don't believe in a mask mandate either. I believe in businesses doing what they see fit. I'm pro-vaccine, but I don't think it's right for the government to be pushing this down people's throats. That should be up to the private citizen and a private business to do what they want to do. And I think right there is where they're losing to culture war. Also, I mean, people say Afghanistan, but I don't think Afghanistan is as big a deal as they think it is. Bottom line, everybody want to be out of Afghanistan. It was going to be pretty, so whatever. Joe Biden just looks incompetent. Like, he just looks incompetent. Like, even if you don't believe he's incompetent, like, the optics say otherwise. But again, you have another year to turn this around. But I don't think that Democrats. I think the thing people didn't realize too about Democrats, that the Democratic Party could be split into three different parties. That's the thing, that their tent is much bigger and much diverse than the Republican tent. So they would seem to be a little more chaos within the Democratic Party because of the different ideas and all that. That's why I tend to tell people, don't just think because this person's Democrat mean the liberal or far left. Because you look at the Democratic Party, it's much more diverse than the right side of it. So, and that is a fact. That's a fact. Because my family alone will tell you that. But they got a year to fix this. I mean, the only issue I could see with Democrats really gaining ground again to hold seats next year is the abortion issue in the Texas law that they passed recently that has been polarized. If they can make that an issue on the ballot box and different Senate seats and representative seats going forward, I mean, that could be one of the clues. But right now the main issue is COVID. It's COVID. And right now Democrats are losing on the basis of culture on COVID. They need to fix that because right now the Republicans are going to look like they're going to dominate next year, the midterm. All right, next question here. NFL football talk here. Who is the MVP for the season so far as we're 11 weeks into the year? This is easy for me. It's Lamar Demetrius Jackson. Not even close. Remember when the Ravens were coming to the year? They had injuries galore. We thought the Ravens would be probably winning division or whatever, or playoff team. And then once they had the Marcus Peters injury and all the running backs got hurt and all that, we were wondering if they'd be a playoff team in general. And now they're 7-3 right now, half a game behind the Titans for the best record in the conference. And Lamar Jackson has been the guy. He's been the Ravens are not a great team. They don't have a lot of great talent. Their best receiver is Hollywood Brown, who drops balls every other game. So you look at it from that aspect. Honestly, I mean he's doing more or less. Kyler Murray was in the race before, but he's missed a couple of games with injury, and they're still winning games without Kyler Murray. Tom Brady, you could say Tom Brady for a little while, but that team has been stacked for a long time. Derrick Henry was in the race too also, but now he's out for the year. Lamar Jackson is running MVP. The only other person I would consider is Dak Prescott, honestly, in Dallas. And he's had some duds last couple weeks. Lamar is carrying a bigger load than anybody else is. He's doing more or less, and it's still 7-3. It's amazing how we talk about the Chiefs, talk about all these other teams, Titans, and the Patriots are catching on now, the Packers and Rams and Cardinals and that. And the Ravens are right there. The Ravens are just right there with Lamar Jackson doing the thing. I mean, at some point, people need to put respect on his name and discussion. So Lamar Jackson is MVP right now so far. And I think it's a runaway, honestly. All right, next question here. What do you make of Will Smith being so transparent about his life publicly now? I respect it. I also don't think it's something I would do. And it's something I've learned as I gotten older. My wife used to hate when I used to post things about us on social media when we first started dating. She always said that we should just keep things for ourselves. Like if we're going somewhere to eat or on a date, just like don't talk about it all the time on social media. Just kind of keep it to yourselves. And I never said that. It's like, well, I wanted to, tell, I want to, it's fun. People can hear what we're doing and all that. At the time, I understand it. Now I do. At 41 years old, I do understand now. As I have kids and stuff, and a little more protective of what goes on in my house and what's being said in my house. I'm a little more protective with that now. So therefore, I respect what he's doing. But is there value in that? I guess. I mean, I guess there's value people who probably want to relate to. I guess Will was make himself relatable. I mean, obviously, him and his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, have been very transparent about their marital issues and stuff. And I think they're kind of a weird couple, but also think they're kind of a real couple, too, in a sense. They've shown some light on, we're celebrities, yes, we are, but at the same time, we do have our own issues too, and some issues that you may not realize that are more common to realize. I mean, I respect, like I said, but it's not something I would do. I mean, he's put himself out there for embarrassment too, especially, which is, that in itself it's a lot to take in. especially in this era where in social media everybody's judging you left and right. But I respect it. I do respect it. Again, it's just something I wouldn't do. But hey, that's not me. That's Will. And Will wants to be make himself relatable to people. I'm okay with it. That's all. All right, next question here. Favorite podcast at the moment. This is fun. Favorite podcast at the moment. I'm gonna break this into genres there. So sports wise, I mean, I'm obviously a Dan Le Batard fanboy. I've been a Le Batard fan since the show started in 2004, locally here in South Florida. So, and the fact they've got made this far and now they're a podcast, and that's the one show I think I listen to every day, no matter what. Their show's done the 5 different segments on the podcast feed, and it's all 5 all the time, every day. Sports wise, I was obviously Colin Cowherd. The Herd. I try to listen to as much as I can. It's been harder to listen to lately because of the amount of podcasts I listen to. Definitely his stuff with the volume, his new venture, who has his own show in there as well too. Listen to all the time. In terms of wrestling, still the same old. Listen to the current times of podcasts, which I haven't listened to much recently, but I still listen to when I have a chance. The Will and JR and some wrestle. It's kind of cooled off a little bit. Wrestling wise, also to listen to of course my boys 3 Count Thursday. Big Jim, James Neese. Also Minus Wrestling. My guys who's been on this show before actually. Of DJ Rob Arnett and Jason Howe also been on the show. And this is the Sam Roberts podcast. I think that's a good wrestling podcast. Let me go through my list quick. So I'm gonna give you guys some love here. People like may be missing here. Wrestling wise, obviously, like I said, Karen Thompson, what is mentioned here. Let me see. Politics wise, the only political podcast I'm into heavily is the Bulwark, which I don't listen to every day, but I do listen to as I can. Very very much to centrist podcast. I love the Brilliant Idiots podcast with Charlamagne the God and Andrew Schultz. Andrew Schultz also has the Flagrant 2 podcast. It's pretty decent. Mac Rapport's back on. Is off Luminary now. He's back to being free on Apple. So listen to that all the time. Let me see here. Of course, Bill Burr. Oral Sessions with Renee Paquette. It's a wrestling podcast mostly. Bomani Jones, of course. Ryan Russell sometimes. Russ Tucker sometimes. And the Sports Reporter sometimes I listen to with Mike Lupica, one company. You know what I mean? So those shows are pretty good. Those shows are pretty interesting and whatnot. Lots of friends of mine. I especially support all the independent media stuff. Douglas Wrestling, especially too, was on his show a couple weeks ago. He'll be on this show soon. Hey Cannon Circus, a lot of independent stuff I'm into, especially. So yeah, that's as I always say, support independent media, man. Support independent media like myself, especially too. All the guys coming to show independent media, support them always. All right, next question here. Another wrestling question here. Is AEW real competition to WWE? In terms of eyeballs, to some extent it could be, but I look at it this way. I don't look at AEW as competition to WWE. I look at it as more of an alternative. Because if they were competition to WWE, then WWE is still beating them pretty soundly. Because WWE's best show, their best rated show is SmackDown, which still gets regularly 2 million viewers an episode, whereas Dynamite is still grazing over 1 million. So, a lot of the AEW fanboys and fangirls, want to call it, want to look at it as competition. I look at it as an alternative because, first off, I enjoy both products, for the record. I love both WWE and AEW. But they both give me something different, which is good. WWE at this point is beyond just being a wrestling company. When Nick Khan said that we're not a wrestling company, what he meant to say is that yes, they're a wrestling company, but they're not just about wrestling. They are scattered. They do documentaries. They do so many other things outside of wrestling too that they prioritize as well. They are Disney in a lot of ways. They are what Disney is to pop culture, for wrestling world. So people would not understand that, the nuance of what he's saying there. But AEW is not really a competition. They are a alternative. The AEW, they're only 2 years in. Technically 3 years in. So they still they have a long way to go. What we can obviously visit this in 5 or 10 years and see if they've gained more ground, But WWE they don't even prioritize the things that WWE is prioritizing. First off, WWE's audience is much larger than AEW's. AEW's audience is really literally 18 to 38 demo, 18 to 39 demo. Okay, because first off, in my house alone, they don't their product is not catered to children, whereas WWE's it's ages 8 to 80. They don't have a demo. The demo is everybody, which is why a lot of people don't they wish they had a little more edgier, like Attitude Era. No, it's not, they don't. What WWE's creating is they create fans from a young age, and then the hope is that they stay with it through the years, and then their kids begin to it, and that's the cycle of it all, and it's worked. And at least in my family, it's worked. I've been a WWE fan since I was 7 years old, and then my son loves it. AEW is not catered to that white audience. They cater to the adult audience. So there's a AEW's audience has a ceiling right now. AEW almost has a ceiling and a floor, whereas WWE's audience does not have a ceiling and floor. The ceiling and floor is much larger, much wider. So they're not competition. WWE, they're just an alternative, and that's a good thing to be. It's better to be an alternative. You know what I mean? So anyway. Next question here. We got about 2 or 3 more of these to go. How important to you is therapy? Didn't care for therapy initially. Growing up, I thought, I was taught growing up that you just go, whatever, just you gotta do. And any problems you fix, you just fix it. And any problems you see, just fix it and go forward. As I got older, I realized that the value of therapy, the value of talking to people, the value of making sure your mental health is in check. It's very important. And I think as we get out to this toxic masculinity era, and I'm not saying you don't have to be a tough guy and muscles and all that. No. If you are a man, that has feelings, you're allowed to have feelings. I'm not saying feelings are a bad thing, but you're allowed to have, you're allowed to feel to some degree. You know what I mean? It's important to be in touch with who you are. Especially a lot of black men, especially too. They're taught to just go. Just work, go. And next you know they die. Next you know they have health issues later in their life. You need to, if you're being told, if your body's telling you to slow down, telling you to take stock, listen to your body, listen to your head, because we don't see the mental health. Mental health you don't see it. You don't see it. It's something you have to understand and just feel. And I think it's very important. I think therapy is very important. I think having people to talk to. It doesn't have to be a therapist either. It can just be people that you're close to, people that that are open. Now, obviously, you make sure you find the right people to talk to as well, too. But I think it's very important. I think it's extremely important. I think it's something that I'm glad that we're progressing that way. That we're becoming a world that we're actually opening to. Yes, I could be the strong guy and tough and this and that, but I could also bring it down a notch, also too. Be in touch with my feelings in a way where it's healthy. No need to weaponize it, all that. So therapy is important. I'm pro therapy heavily, especially now. So all right, 2 more questions here. We get going. Renting or owning? What is the best option? Honestly, it's my opinion. It's whatever works for you. I was raised for a long time that owning was the goal, the be all end all, and I still think owning is a good thing. Owning a home, especially, is a good thing. But as we now seen in this world that people are more mobile now, people don't live in the same area for 20, 30 years. That's not the same thing. It's that the American dream has changed. I think owning is a great thing to do. I think owning a home is great, but it's also harder. It's been made harder. I think today, especially in the COVID era too, with all these prices going up and stuff, they make it harder to do it. So it's all about your situation. What I don't like is people weaponizing that renting is bad. I don't think renting is bad at all. I think renting is actually good depending on your situation. Because renting the thing about renting, it does give you flexibility. If you want to move, you want to do this and that. If you're someone that gets bored of places more than a couple of years, I'm someone that does not mind moving in my area every couple of years. Just because you get bored of your place, try something new. There's flexibility there of that. I also think owning a home is not the best investment it used to be. Years ago, maybe have been the case. But now there's a lot of hidden costs in owning a home that you don't account for. And if you're not ready for that, then, you can be stuck in a situation where you can't get out of. So there's to be honest with you, when it comes to renting and owning a home, especially, there really isn't no bad answer. To me, it's really all about just doing what's right for your situation in the day. So I'm the guy that says, do what's best for you first. If renting is good for you, you do rent. If owning a home is best for you, you do that too. And I support you either way. Last question going for this annual fake question real answers, number 2, volume 2, of course. Do I want more kids? I get this question asked all the time. No, I don't. I am done. And not only that, my wife and I, my wife is even more done with the kid than I am. We did consider one point when we had our second son, Logan, 4.5 years ago, about trying for a girl for a third kid. And then we realized, we're good where we're at. He's a challenge himself. And I think having him was a blessing because in a sense it made us realize that, I think we're good with 2 kids, 2 boys again. I love my kids, but it is not easy being a dad, being a parent. And we've had tough moments. We had some great moments, obviously, with our kids, but we also had some really tough moments, especially recently. As they get older and they start to figure out who they are as people, and they grow and, go to school and deal with these other things. And my 8-year-old has challenges he's dealing with all too, so especially in school. So it's not easy. I mean, I don't know how my mom did it with 4 kids, honestly. I tell her all the time, I mad props for raising 4 kids. She always says, this is why I'm not saying anymore, because you guys were tough. I go, yeah, I don't know how you did it with 4. 2 was hard enough. So, but yeah, my wife and I are done having kids. So that's just that. So, but love our 2 kids. I mean, I'm not saying that's the right choice for everybody else, but we know, my wife and I, we know our limits now. I think we reached ours. We're at a point now in our lives where we want to raise our 2 and just start to get back to having our lives again. Because we do miss the years. I'm not gonna lie to you. Much as we love our children, I'm gonna keep 100 real quick for you guys. We do miss our life before kids, where we were able to travel and do things and some things we didn't do that we regret not doing now. That we didn't do. So, yeah, there's that. So anyway, that's that for this one edition of the Fake Question Real Answers. We're doing one of these probably next year in the winter. Of course, Twitter, EJ7, Earnestly podcast on all classic characters. Until then, we'll talk later. Love you guys. Take care and see ya.